I need to rewire my brain when it comes to autism, because I've realised that the way I talk to or try and reason with autism parents, that there is so much more that can be done for their children. The message is simply not getting through to these parents. And how I've come to realise this, I need to give you a bit of a backstory. I was having breakfast one morning and I had one of those morning TV news programs on in the background, and on popped a lady called Eleanor Gordon Smith. Now, she's a professor of philosophy. She's a very accomplished debater at school and university, and she's also a media commentator as well. That's where I would have normally tuned out, especially at the word philosophy. However, she went on to describe a project that she did for a US radio program called This American Life, and this is in 2016. Her assignment was actually quite simple. She was to go to Sydney's King's Cross district, and when men would wolf whistle at her or made inappropriate comments to her on the street, she was to approach them and to reason with them as to why it was actually offensive to women and to stop doing it in future. Now remember, she's a highly skilled negotiator from years of debating and a philosophy professor, a very bright woman. But she goes on to say, I spent hours giving these men all the evidence, all the reasoning as to why they should not do it. But in dozens of conversations, I walked away defeated. Over and over again, they walked away from our conversations as sure as they'd ever been that it was okay to grab, yell, or follow women in the street. And that was a big wow moment for me. And I'll get to it in a minute as to why. But out of it all, she actually wrote a book, Stop Being Reasonable. And she was actually fascinated as why was it so difficult for her to change these young men's minds. How people really change their minds is not by being reasonable with them, because people change their minds more from an emotional perspective. So she says, look, the proper way to convince people would be to use logic, reasoning, research, latest evidence, and so forth. But that only works if it's in an emotional vacuum. Like, you have to leave things like emotion, ego at the door. What people around you think, fear, past beliefs and experiences. Or with autism, very often it's too hard, it's too expensive, and so forth as well. So this really resonated with me. How many years have I been talking to parents individually, on the phone, at autism expos and exhibitions, that as a parent you need to do more for your autistic child to improve their quality of life and their long-term outcome. And I've presented so much logical argument research to parents over the years. Like look at this study on diet, nutrient deficiencies. If we correct those for your child, will they get better? And research says yes, they will. Gut issues, gene defects, biochemistry, and lately microbiota transfer therapy, and the list goes on. Hundreds of hours spent writing articles, newsletters, and talking to parents, trying to reason with them logically, and then and I think to myself sometimes, what's wrong with these parents? Don't they realise that you only get one chance to bring your child up, and there's no reset button on your child? So, if things don't work out, you can't go back and have another go and hope for a different outcome. I was talking to my son about this, my son that's on the spectrum, and he said something that really stopped me in my tracks. He said, Dad, that's because bringing up children, it's not logical, it's emotional. Wow. And here I've been presenting parents with the autism research, statistics and graphs, and thinking, can't you see it? And yes, you parents can see and agree with me, but to make any changes or to take that next step, there has to be something stronger than just logic and reasoning to drive you as a parent to make a change. Then my son, my logical ASD son, said to me, again, ask yourself, Dad, what motivated you to do what you did with me? And that was another one of those OMG moments as well. Imagine that, my ASD son opening my eyes as to what motivates parents like myself and why I'm actually failing to get my message across to the majority of autism parents. So, very good question. What did motivate me to go on this alternative autism journey, with him? It wasn't when he was diagnosed. I didn't know anything about autism, but did it make me go out and research everything I could about autism? No, it didn't. I left it all to my wife to take care of. And I've already spoken about this before in my previous video. Look, yes, he got early intervention, he was doing okay at kinder. My brother was doctor at the time, and he said, look, he'll be fine, he'll grow out of it. Well, look, he's a doctor. He should know. So I had no motivation, no interest to do anything more, because I was told he was going to be okay. Then primary school. He got kicked out of the first primary school within the first 2 weeks, and then was diagnosed as ADHD, so he was put on the drug dexamphetamine. Bang! Problems with his appetite, problems with his mood, sleep. He wasn't the same boy, once they put him onto the drug. There it is. There was my personal turning point. He's doing badly at school, he's being medicated, and he's not doing well on it. If he's like this now, where is he going to be in 10 years from now? There was my emotional moment. I felt sorry seeing where my son's life was heading. Logically, I had no proof he was not going to do well. I didn't have a crystal ball, but emotionally I felt that he was not going to achieve a good outcome on the path that he was. That was my emotional turning point. Look, up until then, it wasn't about diet, it wasn't about supplements, it wasn't about biochemistry or even genetics or anything else. It's basically where I saw his life in 10 years' time, and I didn't like where I believed it was heading. And I'm realizing that when I talk to parents, I should be more like, I should actually talk a little bit more like buying a car. When you buy a car, the salesman is not selling you a car, they're actually selling you a driving experience, and that's emotional. And when you buy a house, you're not buying the house because you're buying a lifestyle or a living experience. Look at the entertainment area, look at the barbecue area, the luxury kitchen or bathroom. You're not buying the house for the quality of the building materials that went into building the foundations of the house, or the quality of the workmanship. You're buying the emotional connection you make with the house and its location. So here's me trying to reason with autism parents using logic and research without that emotional connection to their child. So I'm actually talking and connecting to maybe 5% of my autism parent audience that are already, mostly on the same journey that we went on. But the rest of you, the 95% of my audience and beyond, no matter how much research or reasoned argument I will throw at you as to why you should be doing more to help your child, it ain't going to happen, is it? Until you as a parent find that moment, that realization, motivation, drive, incentive, or life-changing event to do what logically you should do for your child. Look, even if it's at the very least ensuring they eat well. Until that happens, in reality, little will change for your child. So what would it take for you to step outside your emotional comfort zone, like I did, and many other parents as well, and do the things that other parents are not prepared to do for their child? So instead of talking to you about things like diet, supplements, gut bacteria, testing that we should be doing for your child, or neurotransmitters in the brain and those sort of things, I need to stop trying to be reasonable with you and start talking to you emotionally. Maybe I need to talk more like, God forbid, a used car salesman or real estate agent. That's not something I'm comfortable with because, look, I talk as a medical scientist and I need to stop that. Maybe I should talk more along the lines of, imagine what it would be like if your child was calm, sleeping well, working well with your therapist, compliant, transitioning well, eating better. You're able to take them out socially, look, to dinner or to the shopping centre without them having a tantrum or meltdown. Would that make a difference to you and your child's life? It certainly has made a huge difference to many other parents. So think about it. What would be the turning point for you as a parent to do what most other parents are not prepared to do? But remember, the sooner that happens, the better your child's outcome is going to be. The later you leave it, yes, they still make progress, but it does take so much longer and so much more effort to get them there. So I need to rewire my brain in the way I think and talk to you as parents. I need to talk more on the emotional level rather than logically to you. You know, if I hope to make a difference to your child's long-term outcome. And hopefully I can get through, you know, and hopefully I can get through to many more parents like yourself so that we can make a significant difference not only to your child's life but to you and your family's quality of life as well. So think about where you are now with your child. And look, where do you see your child in 10 years' time or even 5 years' time from now? And what are you prepared to do to get them there? Because I guarantee doing what every other parent is doing at the moment is only preparing them for a very poor outcome in most cases. You may not be ready for it right now to go out and change things, but look, there will be a turning point somewhere in your child's life where things are not working out like they did for us. And you can choose to continue on that same emotional path with your child, or you can choose to step back at that moment. You know, look at your child and think, like I did, you know, there has to be a better way, and there has to be a better outcome for my child. So being logical and trying to reason with parents that there are so many medical issues that can be effectively treated in autism, you know, that argument is not working, and parents are walking away from that reasoning. And I can see in the decades that follow that, yeah, we will look back at how badly we treated autistic children and think, how did we let this happen? Like, we now look back just 50 years ago to when autism was thought to be caused by emotionally cold refrigerator mothers or parents. And we think now how much damage was done with that way of thinking to these mothers and their children. I would like to think that we're not going to make that same mistake again. That, yeah, we can move beyond emotional barriers and give these children the help that they really need. My name is John Petrika. I'm a naturopath, medical scientist, a father to an autistic child, and that child is actually now teaching me emotional intelligence and how to talk to autism parents. Thank you for listening, and as always, I welcome your comments below, and please share so that we can make a difference to many more children.